Welcome to All Things Possible TV. We're going to be doing this a little bit different, and we're excited to have you join here with us for this episode. Our episode today is Stronger Families Through Unconditional Love. We have some special guests, some dear friends with us. First we have my husband Bill, which you know, myself Kris, and our son Blake Barney. Then we have the McIntosh family. We have Scott and Becky, and also their son Sean. And today we want to talk to you about something that our families have both gone through, and for a lot of you, maybe you have someone that you know that's going through something like this. We have our sons that we get to deal with same-sex attraction, and we have handled it really well with our families. But we also want to give you some advice on some lessons that we learned and some things that in going through this and being able to learn and come up with the lessons that we get to learn in our life, we have grown. All 6 of us have grown at different lengths in going through this, but we want to help others. We want to be able to have others feel that no matter what your circumstances are, you can have unconditional love and you can find the value in individuals without labeling and judgment and everything else. So we're going to jump in and get started, and we'll tell you a little bit of our story, and we'll just go from there. So Bill's going to start for us.
Okay, our story. Blake is now 24 years old, and we had no idea that this would ever be in our future. But one night, when he was just before he turned 19, he come into our bedroom late at night and said, "Mom and Dad, we need to have a talk." And that was a big lump come up in my throat. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on now? Because for us, we need to have a talk, Mom and Dad, is code word for, I have something serious I'm dealing with, and you always promised me that if I said these words, that there would be no judgment, no severe reaction, that you would listen and accept, and we would just work through things calmly.
And no freak out session.
No freak out.
Right?
Yeah.
No freak out.
So,
promise not to freak out.
We're laying there half asleep, and he says, we need to have a talk. And Blake just sat down and said, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I've been battling with this for many years, and I'm gay. I can't live a lie anymore. And I remember the shock. And it was just like a bomb being dropped on us. We really had no idea that he had been dealing with this and struggling with this. But the one thing that we said to him is, Blake, we will support you. We love you no matter what. Family first. We love you, and we're going to get through this, and we'll make this all work. We'll figure it out as we go. And so that's how our story came to be. And since then, we found just a much closer family unit, and it's just been good. But Blake, go ahead and talk about what that was like for you to come, the fear to come and tell us.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I think the biggest, most difficult thing was for myself to acknowledge it and accept it for myself. It was something that I struggled with starting at about age 11 or 12 was when I started to identify it in myself, and went through all the different pray the gay away, go to the temple more, divulge myself into my callings and into school and all these different avenues. And it wasn't until the beginning or middle point of my senior year that I really came to peace and came to terms with who I was. And then it was, what does this mean for my future? Because at that point then, I was only okay with today, let alone the future 60 years that I have in my life. So I went back to the drawing board of what life looked like and made some good choices and made some bad choices along the way, but ultimately came to that safe place and came out to the family and took it one step at a time from there. And
so you're not perfect. You made
no.
You made mistakes in this process too. We all learned. All of us made mistakes. All of us had different belief systems, and all of us have different areas of judgment and things we got to overcome and learn. All of us handled it differently. I know even with in my story in this, if you've listened to the other episodes that have preceded this, you've heard some of this, but for me, it was like, I'm still going to hide it. It took me a couple years before I told even family and friends anything about this. I just kept trying to fix this, and what did I do wrong? And I went into a lot of guilt for myself. So all of us handle it differently.
Yeah, and there's mistakes that everybody makes. I mean, nobody's going to get through this process perfectly. It takes time. It takes a lot of love and patience from everyone,
I
not just
think
one
for
side.
me, the mistake that I made was I wanted to fix Blake. I wanted to cure him. I wanted to heal him. I just knew he was broken and there was something wrong. And if, that's what I do as a father, is fix him. And as an energy healer, that was my first intention, was to fix him. And there was nothing to fix. Blake is Blake. I love him. But what we were able to do is do a lot of sessions where he could get rid of the self-loathing, the self-hate, to start to accept himself. And it's just a journey. We work it out and handle it as humans. So let's go ahead and
let's hear the Macintosh's journey.
A lot of commonalities here in our families. So we're the Macintoshes. We have 7 children, and Sean is number 3. And he was always such a happy, great kid growing up. Loves people. Everybody loves Sean, and he loves animals. He was a caretaker, and he was the peacemaker in the home. And it had crossed my mind a few times, just because he's such a good-looking kid, and he wasn't taking the initiative to pursue girls. They were all taking the initiative to pursue him, and they'd come to our house to hang out, and they were asking him out, and so those things were a little bit put some it's not something that I ever said out loud, but it was some thoughts, but I did not want to believe that or accept that. Great kid, served a mission, and was doing great things in his life, going to school, putting himself through school, working hard, getting straight A's. Well, a B thrown in there, here and there, maybe, huh? But, great kid. And when he finally, when he told us, we did not create those code words that meant, okay, there's no freaking out. He had grown up in our home, and his dad will talk about this a little bit more, and Sean, of how he grew up kind of fearful and thinking maybe we would kick him out, or that it would be not unpleasant. And so he told us in an email that he sent us, and the night before he was to head back to school, and which was the best way he could have done that. His dad did freak out, and I'm glad that Sean wasn't there to see that initial freak out, and he can kind of just share that story in a bit. But it's been a journey. It's been 2 years. We recently come out public with a video and a blog post in January, in hopes to help other families to heal and to see that we're normal, and he's normal. He's just a good, great kid, and we're just a typical family. We all deal with challenges and different situations, and we have learned that the best way to deal with a child or a situation is with love. That gets the best results and reactions.
Alright, so yeah, very similar with Blake and things. Growing up, I think I kind of knew ever since I was little. I didn't know I was gay, but even as a small child, like little kid, I knew that I did like people that were boys and my same sex and things like that. But I didn't ever think that I was gay. I just thought that was just something about me, but you never really think of that when you're little. And as I got older, it kind of just kept clicking in my head, okay, this is still here, it's still here, even though I had done what Blake was saying, like praying, doing all these different things, trying to take care of it. Because for me, it was such a stressor, because I didn't know like how my family would react. I didn't know how my life was built around this whole pressure of what my life was going to be, and being gay was never part of it, like not at all. And so this huge chunk of me was this, but yet I was told I had to do everything else the opposite. And so it was really stressful as a kid, and it was like, it put me into a dark place. And like my mom said, like she didn't know that I was a really happy kid, but I think I was just really good at keeping that like hidden. And because of this part of me, I kept things hidden from my parents a lot of times, because I was just scared. I was just scared of being vulnerable, and I didn't know how they would react. Even though they were always really loving and great parents, they are really great. But I mean, parents do react scarily sometimes, and so you didn't know. And I'd seen examples.
Roar.
Yeah, exactly. He has some anger, and so it would be scary. And it did take me a long time. And even after I did it, it wasn't initially great. There was still that rocky time, but it was good. And the thing is like I just had to be completely patient with them, because even though it was something that I had known for years and years and years, they didn't, and I needed to let them have that time to they could freak out, like it was okay, like I could handle that, because they needed to, that was part of their process. And in doing that, it gave them time, and I was really patient with them. We never had fights, and they would sometimes say like very negative things to me, not on purpose, but just things that would like crush me. But I had to let that not take that personally, and let them know like it's okay, and have open conversations with them. Even though they would, every time I talked to them, they'd say like extremely hurtful things, I would just let them keep talking to me, because I wanted to keep that conversation open. And in doing so, they've grown like crazy.
And we didn't feel like we were saying hurtful things. We thought we were speaking with love and just giving him this great parental advice that would help him to be happier and a better person. And yeah, it was more of, okay, well, we
it wasn't
can fix
intentional.
this.
That's why I couldn't take it personally or be upset, because they didn't know what they were doing. It was new to them, and it was fine. They just needed to take that time.
You know, I think that's a key point right there, Sean, is on any side of this issue, for somebody that's dealing with this, is to just water off a duck's back with a lot of things. You know, for someone who's coming out, they've been a whole lifetime coming to this decision. They spring it on, you know, it's a shock to somebody who learns it. They need time to adjust. And we all need to just be more sensitive with each other, but also not so sensitive that we get all offended, that we just are gentle with each other.
Right. Let's go ahead and have Scott tell your side for a minute, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into this.
Yeah, I feel like I need to hold up a white flag. You know? No, it was a big process for me. It was a big learning process, and the hardest and most difficult thing to get through my head was that I had a son that was dealing with that. And so in my mind, he was just such a horrible person. He just delved into some really dirty and disgusting things that made him this type of a person. And why would he do that? Because I'd raised him better than that. And when I realized that he wasn't this horrible person, that he hadn't delved into things that were bad and made him who he was created this way. He was born this way. And when he was born that way and grew up with it, then I felt so horrible myself for holding these things over him. You know, to think, oh man, I don't want to get emotional. Just smack me. Just to think that, you know, this kid that I loved so much growing up, and as he got older, we had more conflict, you know. And I didn't realize why it was, but I think probably because I was, I don't know, I was probably just a mean person, because I don't know how to act. I started acting in a way where if he didn't conform to the ways I liked, then he was odd or he was different. And that was kind of a thing that was going on. As he got older, we weren't hitting the same wavelengths. And I don't know why until later that we weren't on the same page. You know, we weren't looking at life the same way. And so as he grew up, I felt so horrible for the way I treated him, because he was needing somebody to love him, not to fight him. And that's normally the kind of person I am. I'm a very loving people person. I love people. And for me to shun him hurts now more than ever, because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't know what the problem was. Well, later on when he did tell me what the problem was, and then all of a sudden That's when I went freakazoid, and Becky will attest to that. And I said some horrible things, and I'm very glad that he wasn't there. He wrote us in a Facebook message, and when that message came through at 11:11 on the night before he was to leave to fly back to school, 11:11 p.m., I was just freakazoid. I looked at it and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I went and I talked to his mom, and I called him and I said, "You get home right now. We're going to talk." I didn't have this safe haven that you guys had created. We live on 3.5 acres, and I don't think that's a big enough haven at our place when I got freakazoid. And so I'd have caught him somewhere. It was just one of those things. It just took some time, but I had some time to digest. It was like, 4 hours later, I went down to his room when he got back from saying goodbye to friends and stuff, and he'd talked to his mom for quite a while, and I'd been sleeping. And I went down to his room and I just gave him a big hug. And I said, "We'll talk later." But in my mind, I was doing the same thing you were. I knew I needed to fix it. I was just going to let it sit for a minute, and I'll fix it later. We're not going to fix it right now. And so over the next year and a half, year and 3/4, our relationship wasn't really changed a ton. We didn't communicate a lot before then. She and he did a lot more. And we would text and stuff and Facebook. But every time I texted him or Facebooked him, it was always with "What about this? What if you did this type thing? Maybe that would work better." And I was going to fix him. And so that went for a long process. And then I had a life-changing moment when I actually went to mormonsandgays.org and saw some of the videos. And when I heard an apostle saying that this was something that they didn't really come right out and say. They just alluded to the fact that this is something they struggle with because it's inside of them. This isn't something that they created. And that's where it got through to my thick skull that my son was dealing with something that he needed to be loved through, that he needed to be nurtured and hugged and maintain that relationship that I always knew we could have and that I always did have. But all of a sudden it started getting a little bit weird for a while. And all of a sudden I realized that my son was still an awesome, amazing kid. He was just as phenomenal as he always was. But he was dealing with something that I had no understanding of. How could I, who I call myself Mr. Testosterone, I like to go out in the mountains and hunt and fish and catch things with my bare hands. How could I be this guy that could understand this whole different process? And it took some time to realize that my son still does those same things that I do. He loves to go camping and go out in the mountains and go hunting and all those fun things that we do. But he's dealing with something inside that I couldn't understand. And it wasn't that I even tried to have to understand it anymore. All I had to do was know that he is. And it was different. And I just continued to love.
I love that you brought up that you had to love. The biggest thing that we have found as I think both families is that unconditional love, that loving anyway. Both of these boys, these men, are phenomenal. They have similar stories where our son went to Peru and worked in an orphanage right after high school. And Sean, you went to Thailand.
Yes.
How long were you in Thailand?
Well, I've been there the last 3 years every summer, but the last time I was there for 9 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We also have Blake does a huge bit with our Sub for Santa and donates. He still donates a contribution that we taught him years ago, and he donates that contribution to other families for Christmas. It's amazing when you really get to know deep down the value of an individual, no matter what they're going through, but the deep down divinity of a person. Because when you do that, it's so easy to unconditionally love. And when you open your heart up to be able to share and to be open to them having their life their way. And one of the things that you said was, this journey and that you had to get to that point for you. As fathers, we fix things. I know Bill was a fixer and still is a fixer. But this was something totally different. Totally put in our space. It wasn't something that we went, "Oh, please, let us learn a lesson." And yet, I love how your families dealt with it. Your family dealt with it different than our family. And yet at the same time, Sean, do you still come home to things? Do you come home for big Christmas celebrations? You're in Hawaii now.
Yeah, you're home from Hawaii for a while right now.
Yeah.
So.
And family's a huge peace, and don't you feel like if you had anything right now, you could run to your family?
Yeah, it's very welcoming for sure.
Okay, how do you feel, Blake?
Yeah, I live out of state and I'm back every 8 weeks, so.
And the funny thing about Blake is he flew in because his first niece was born. So he flew in because the family had an addition that was made to the family. So the big key here is to keep the family the center, to have those relationships, to have it open and welcoming, to be able to move to that next level.
Well, let me just add something here. The big reason we want to do this is there is a high incidence of suicide with gay people, and I assume that you probably felt suicidal. I know Blake did. Talk about that a little bit, and for anybody who is dealing right now with trying to come out and wondering, is life even worth living? Please talk about that, because that's what the love is about, is keeping people on this planet, you know?
Yeah, and it's more than just the suicidal thoughts. Just that dark place. I mean, you referenced a dark place before. And the actual incident of suicide is only a piece of it. I mean, there's so much more that happens before that, during that, and after that, of the self-hatred and the, trying to control your life in various ways that may not even be suicidal, that can get into eating disorders and body dysfunction and different things that are self-harming, and you're just trying to control something.
Well, even addictions, I think, come into that.
Yeah, it's a testament there. Addictions can happen, and you start to lose yourself because you're in that dark place, and it's not a good place to be. And so just that environment of love, unconditional love, with family and with friends, it gives you that safe haven, that place to go where you don't need these control factors, you don't need these negative, dark thoughts and processes, to feel grounded or to feel secure.
Yeah.
But
Mostly in like junior high and things, I would go through that dark times, just because things I would hear socially, religiously, and just things like that, they would make me feel just really dark and like I had no one to talk to. I feel like that was the biggest thing, is that I felt like I was very alone in everything. Even though I was surrounded by people who were loving, I felt like I didn't have that opportunity to tell them. And so I feel like that, for me, was the biggest key factor in this dark place and these suicidal thoughts and things. And I want people to know that they always do have someone to talk to, that there are people that are willing to listen, and that you don't have to keep these things hidden. And coming out shouldn't have to be this big elaborate thing. I hope that families are open and loving to the point where their kid can just grow up and be them, and without having to worry about these types of situations. And will my parents accept and love me like this, or do I have to conform to that? And I think the world is becoming better, but I want everyone to feel like they have that place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of hard work to create that place, because if you don't speak up, if you don't, tell anyone, even if it's not telling them you're gay, but maybe just telling them that you're struggling or that you have these dark places, having that network, I know a lot of that came back on me, and part of me coming out of those dark emotions and dark feelings was starting to build my own network and reaching out to friends and then family. So use the resources that are around you. There isn't one single solution that works for everyone. For some people it's jump right to your family. For others it's go to some friends. For others it's the Trevor Project or the It Gets Better Project. So there's several avenues that you can take and speak up. Find an avenue that is safe and secure for you and your situation.
Yeah, but just don't try to handle it on your own. It's too much.
You can't. You won't make it through it alone.
But something that I think is important to point out is Sean's told me numbers, and I don't know where he gets his numbers, and I've heard them also from the therapists. We went to a meeting the other day, and there were some therapists there. They were saying it was 1 in 100. Sean's said as high as 1 in 20. I've heard different people even say more so than that. But if your family has more than 20 members in your family, there's a chance
1 in 10.
1 in 10, he says. I've heard 1 in 10 from him, 1 in 20, 1 in 100 from the therapist. But if you got a family of substantial size, there's a good chance that somebody there in that room is having these same feelings. And if they're having those feelings, we as a group of people, we as just a community, we need to realize that every time we're in a setting of that many people, there's somebody in there that's going through those feelings. And we need to be understanding of that. I was a big joker. I was a big, said a lot of jokes along those lines about gays and things like that. And they weren't always just to be funny. I was a mean person. And Sean will attest that, which made it more difficult when he wanted to come out. But we as a community, if we can get rid of these stereotypes and these horrible things that make people feel bad. Earlier I was talking off camera and telling you I was just at a scout camp this last week. And at this scout camp for the last 4 days, I probably heard 15 gay references of kids just joking and being funny. And I was like, if my son was here in that same setting, that would have been offensive to him. And I don't think that we realize how offensive we can be as just a group of people in humanity.
Well, and we even said whose son was there when we were talking
Yeah.
about that.
If there were 15 kids there, maybe one of those is struggling
one of
with
them.
these feelings.
Yep,
Is having a
You know,
tough time.
and what was that like for him?
Yeah, what was
You
he
know,
going through when he heard those
We
comments?
need to be more kind and sensitive.
Yep.
Right. One of the things that I would like, we only have a few more minutes, but if there's any advice, so both Blake and Sean, if there's any advice that you would like to give to someone who's struggling, as well as we want to hear from Becky and Scott and Bill, just any quick advice that you have to someone who is struggling, or a family that they just had someone come out, that come out moment, but that something that we could tell you of things that have worked, things that haven't worked, that we've learned to improve on. So Blake, why don't you start?
I think advice for everyone, whether you are the individual that is feeling same-sex attraction or other things, or the family that's supporting someone that's coming out, love is the first and foremost thing that is probably going to be echoed 6 times here today. But reach out, get some more insight, get some more information. I recommend the It Gets Better project. You can look on YouTube at the It Gets Better videos. There are thousands of them out there, and that line is just so true. It does get better, but it takes a lot of work. And there will be good days, there will be bad days, and there will be terrible days. But everyone that's going through this, it takes a lot of courage to come out. And that's not just the individual that's coming out with same-sex attraction. That's the family coming out with, I have a gay son, I have a gay daughter. It takes courage from everyone, but this isn't courage like a warrior going to war. This is courage of the heart and courage of the character. That gets to be coupled with patience and forgiveness, because all 6 of us here have probably made a mistake or said things that we shouldn't have said or been too aggressive at some point or another. It takes forgiveness. As much understanding and forgiveness that you want from the other person, be ready to give it back to them, because everyone will need forgiveness. Everyone will need patience.
Awesome. Okay, Sean, why don't you tell us any advice that you would like to share with people?
Okay. So like Blake said, that it gets better for sure. Because, like I said, I was in that place when I was younger and things, and you don't see that it gets better thing. All you see is this blindsided thing. And when I look at myself now and how I am versus then, like, I'm 100 times happier, and I didn't ever see that. And so just helping people realize that they can get to that point too. They don't have to stay in this dark area that they are. And it's different for everyone, like you said, to get to that point. But I think something that was extremely helpful for me and for other people probably is a lot of patience. Patience with yourself, and also patience with other people. Because people are going to say ugly things, but you got to be loving to them just as much as you want them to be loving to you. And when you do that, I feel like you kill them with kindness. It's really hard to be mean to someone who's extremely nice to you. And so that works with anything. But for me, like, just being the same person you always are, letting them know, okay, I've always been gay, now you know that I'm gay, but I'm still that exact same person that I always was. And helping people see that, and helping people open the discussion, like things like this, helps people to realize new things that they didn't. Because a lot of people, this isn't even on their mind. And so by you coming out, by you being open to people and things, it helps broaden horizons, it helps people be more loving. And I think that is the key, is loving everyone no matter what they are, because I'm gay and I'm happy and I am great and I'm just...
Yes, you are.
My life is just going really well and things are awesome. I have a great family, and I didn't see that, but I'm so glad that I found that.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
And I can't emphasize enough about his smothering it with kindness, or that type thing. That was the thing that got me through it the most. I mean, we'd go out and do things, we'd have conversations, and he never ever fought back. And I would come off with some things like, okay, I've got my artillery together, I'm coming in with this battle, and I'm gonna be ready to fight. and he would never fight back, and it just takes all the fun out of fighting when they don't fight back. And then we just started communicating, and once we started communicating, that's when things got better, and it made sense. I realized that he's the same guy. If he'd have fought back, it would have been a struggle for me, and it would have been easier for me to have contentious feelings. But it was just so easy to love when he made it so easy to love.
Yeah.
Well, and I love how you say your artillery. It was prayer and love and kindness. If you really know Scott, he likes to hunt, but he wasn't hunting his son. But it was your way to help fix him. It was your way to be a good father and to keep that family unit together. And I love how you've shown love and you've embraced your situation. You've shared it. And Becky, when you share, I would love for you to share your new website and your new stuff that we can actually put on there.
Yes. So when Sean and we did a video that we made public in January, and after posting that, I've been flooded with emails from people sharing their stories and wanting support and guidance and direction, and I was surprised, but I shouldn't have been surprised because I was where they were at not too long ago, but I was surprised that they didn't know what was out there, all the resources and the websites, whether you're LDS or not. There's so many different resources, and so I was continually emailing and calling and messaging people with all these different links to or organizations that they could seek help and support. And so I put together a website that people can go to enrich relationships and strengthen families and heal hearts. And it's called Heal the Wounded Hearts. And it's called HealingHeartsSavingLives.com. So if you go there, you'll have access to a lot of different resources. And I love your feedback and can add more content to that to be able to help families and help individuals to heal hearts, save lives.
That's awesome. And I love that you've gone that direction and to make a place for people to go. That's what this is all about, is being able to share our experience. You know, you can read in books all you want, but 2014 is so much different than the books that were printed 10 years ago, that really from this experience of both of our families going through this and having great success, we have strong families that do a lot together and have not ostracized anyone. And that is something that we want to be able to help others to see. We're willing to and get really raw and open with that we did a lot of things wrong. And because we can be able to share, we can help others do more things right. Bill, why don't you share?
Well, I just want to talk about the turning point for me. And yes, I always loved him, but I had this desire to want to fix him. And as Latter-day Saints, as Mormons, one of our places, our most sacred buildings where we feel we can go and be closer to God is our temples. And so I decided that if I could, like prayed the gay away, if I could be righteous enough and do enough favors, that God would change Blake's heart. And so I entered into temple service, where I would go and spend a half a day serving in the temple every week, and serve in the temple and just praying the whole time, please change Blake's heart, help him to see the right way. And I realized after I had been doing this for about 3 months that miracle I had been praying for did come, and the heart was changed. But it wasn't Blake's heart that was changed, it was mine. That my heart changed. And he's a precious human being. He's a son of God, and I love him the way he is. He doesn't have to change. He's not broken. There's nothing wrong. It's our job just to love. That was the big thing for me, was when my heart was changed and I was praying for his. But mine was the one that was broken, that was out of order. And so I was thankful for that experience.
Thanks for sharing, being so real. We are so excited that you've been here with us today. If you'd like more information, you can go to our website, which is www.allthingspossible.biz. Again, that's www.allthingspossible.biz. We love having you here and joining with us in this episode, our little panel that we've had. We are all about stronger families, stronger relationships, healing hearts, and we do it through unconditional love. And we are so excited that both Sean and Blake have such tremendous futures ahead of them, that they have the family support unit, they know where they can turn, and they know they're loved unconditionally. So thanks for joining us today for this episode, and join us again, and just know that unconditional love is the way that we're going to get through this all together. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time on All Things Possible TV.
Bye.
Bye-bye.